Hi, my name is Joshua Shong, and this is my slides on our group project for cybersecurity. Um, my topic that I wanted to present was the rise of ransomware as a service, or RAAS. This is the threat of the evolution and the mitigation strategies for this such attack. I first wanted to start off with what is ransomware. Ransomware is a type of malicious software that encrypts the victim's data. Um, the attacker demands payment in exchange for the decryption key, and after the or before the payment, the attacker may threaten to leak data, delete backups, or disable system recoveries for the service. A few common targets of these attacks are businesses, hospitals, schools, and governments. So I now wanted to show a little bit of the evolution of ransomware and where it is at. This is just like some events or how it started off, in the early 2000s. They had basic encryption malware and low level impact. In 2013, we have CryptoLocker, which was a major global impact, which kind of introduced ransomware and its impact. And then we moved to 2017 with WannaCry and NotPetya. These are ransom worms. And then we move on to now. So that would be 2025. Ransomware as a service. It's professionalized and scalable, making it a threat. Um, so we talked a lot about what ransom is. We should now figure out what ransomware is, um, or ransomware as a service. Sorry about that. So we know ransomware is when attackers hold your encryption key in exchange for money. RAAS is a business model where ransomware develops their malware to affiliates. So the developers will create these tools or programs for the affiliates or the attackers to use, and that's how the affiliates and attackers will use them. The affiliates then carry out the attacks, so they will then send out the attack through um, vulnerabilities or phishing, and after the attack is carried out and the money is gone through, the profits are split between the developer and affiliate. Um, this model itself is similar to software as a service or SaaS, but it's for cybercrime. This business model lowers the technical barrier to entry, though, allowing people with no programming or malware development experiences to launch attacks using user-friendly dashboards and support communities. Basically meaning anybody that has no prior knowledge in coding or malware in general can hop into this itself, since it's super easy to get into. So I wanted to start off with, how does RAAS work? This is just a little summary of the last slide that I have. A little easier. Developers create ransomware platforms, so the tools and infrastructures affiliates then register and access the tools, instructions, and support through the purchase from the developer. And then the affiliates distribute ransomware via phishing or exploit kits, so they will be attacking the victims then. And then after that, the affiliates demand payments from the victims, in which if they do not, like I mentioned earlier, they do use some threats to make sure like they can get it as fast as possible or even more um, after getting the payment. The affiliate then will split with the developer. Um, so what are some RAAS platforms? I honestly don't recommend finding any of these. Most of them are found on the dark web. These are all platforms or groups that I found that have been exposed and caught on the dark web. Um, so the platforms would be Lockbit, ReEvil, Conti, and DarkSide. The common delivery methods that they use, or they are RAAS groups use generally are phishing emails with malicious attachment or links to get into the systems, or exploiting unpatched vulnerabilities within the system to make sure they're able to encrypt what they need and prevent users, or preventing employees too from using the service. Sorry about that. So I now want to move on to the case studies. Sorry about that. So one of the case studies I have is the Colonial Pipeline. In May 2021, DarkSide, one of the RAAS groups I mentioned, used a compromised VPN password to access Colonial Pipe's system. Um, they deployed ransomware that shut down fuel distribution across the U.S. East Coast. Making that distribution not accessible to anybody that needs it. Um, Colonial Pipeline, you know, um, had to pay 4.4 million in ransom to DarkSide to receive their decryption key to gain access back to the pipeline. I do know that some of it later on was received from the FBI, um, but not all of it. This incident marked a turning point in the U.S. national cybersecurity world, leading to executive orders and new regulations. Um, Sorry about that. Another case study I have was MGM Resorts in 2023. This attack begins with social engineering. The threat actor tricked an IT support help desk employee into resetting a password for them, and which that threat actor, which is now the attacker, used the ALPHV Black Cat RAAS to lock down the whole entire system for the resort. So anything that had to do with the resort, which here are casinos and hotels, were paralyzed and unable to access a few of their sources or services that they provide. Um, Examples would be room keys. They failed, slot machines, they stopped working, and online reservations were down for days. This breach caused MGM Resorts over $100 million in damage and ransom. Um, this just shows how RAAS can be paired with basic human manipulation to cause enormous damage. Another attack that I have here is a Kaseya supply chain attack. It's a software company that provides IT management tools to manage service providers. In July 2021, the ReEvil RAAS group exploited a vulnerability in Kaseya's VSA software to push ransomware to thousands of endpoints managed by its clients, causing um, damage financially and reputationally to Kaseya's supply chain. Um, so now I want to move on to why RAAS is so effective. It democratizes cybercrime. Anyone with a few $100s can launch enterprise-grade ransomware without any coding knowledge. The only thing they really need to do is try to find any groups that are willing to sell to them, and trust in them. You know, RAAS is also anonymous. It offers anonymity through cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Monero to make sure, money money that's not trackable is used so that it's not tracked back to the group itself. And the operations infrastructure is hidden, like I said, on the dark web. So it is hard for any government officials to go in and get any evidence on there. So these are a few of the impacts on the victims, which are usually companies or individuals, but most likely they're companies, since it is a system. Sorry. So financially, the companies would have to suffer paying ransoms. They'd have to suffer the legal fees, the incident response fees, and regulatory fines. This is due to them not um, um, following some of the laws that requirement, like confidentiality within the group. So they may have to pay fines and fees to um, continue the business. Operational, you know, since the attacker does have the encryption key, um, they're going to have to suffer a lot of downtime and disrupted services and overall loss of productivity. Um, this itself causes a lot of financial damage too, reputationally, you know, due to the opera systems being down for so long. If not fixed right away, they can lose customer trust in them, and honestly, they will suffer a lot of negative media coverage for breach. Just as that, legally, like I said, they may suffer financially because of this too, due to data privacy violations. And because of that, they may also be hit with lawsuits from victims. So, and I want to talk about detection and prevention of RAAS. These are just a couple of ways that can help prevent or solidify your defense against it. Um, Email security, making sure to filter malicious emails or links, um, filtering out any emails that are not affiliated with your company or overall does not have a trustful like Gmail or email link is very important, because employees that may not know better can click on it. Moving on to my next point is user training. Employees should recognize phishing attempts, and that should be able to prevent them from clicking on it and letting attackers into the system. Employees are the weakest link to me in a system of security because they're very easily to be influenced. Um, EDR and SIEM use modern security tools to detect abnormal behaviors, patch management, fixing known vulnerabilities quickly so they're not abused by attackers. That is also important, like the Kasaya's breach. The person got in through the vulnerability and held their system for ransom. Um, it's good to have um, to know what your vulnerabilities are and to fix them in that way. For me, I would encourage a zero trust network design to help detect and prevent RAAS. Um, some of the few things that are in zero trust security that is good is multi-factor authentication, and forcing all users to log in, especially admins, to have this is very important to make sure that any non-authorized users are in the system itself or network. Next one, we have network segmentation, isolating critical systems from the broader network, keeping them on a separate network. Zero trust security is very important, so that the attacker is not able to move laterally and move up and try to get more important pieces to increase the ransom. A few of the things that I feel like is also important is making sure to keep backups that are stored offline and testing them regularly just in case you end up in a situation in which um, you do have to pay some ransom. Though I do not recommend just using the backup because there is, like I said, a lot of confidential things that go into the main one too as well. Um, Incident response, you should definitely run simulations to practice containment and recovery of these systems when stuff like this happens. Um, Law enforcement and policy responses. With the threat up and coming, law enforcement and policies became more strict. FBI have take down some of the groups and sites that I mentioned earlier, ReEvil, Hive, we have DarkSide, all those um, companies caught in the scam from um, government officials has been taken down so far. Um, we have CSI alerts, real-time threat sharing. They help a lot. They sit there and they share information of us on upcoming threats, or any current threats to our ransomware attacks. We have international collaboration, law enforcement. They have joint operation from other countries to track down any of the attackers and developers of these systems um, to make sure that they themselves and any family members or any, companies are safe from these attacks. Ethical and legal dilemmas of RAAS. You know, it is a controversial and opinionated topic. Some believe in, um, some believe it encourages attackers to attack more victims if you do pay the ransom. Well, others argue it's necessary to restore services as quickly to the company and the customers. Um, Several governments, discourage payments or require disclose, meaning insurers are reducing ransomware coverage or raising premium risks due to the risk of ransomware attacks or ransomware-as-a-service attacks. Um, I want y'all to be aware of the raising threat. With the growing of technology comes with the growing of RAAS scams. Due to the increase in technology, they can become more automated, more modular, and more aggressive. Um, the future of ransomware may include industrial sabotage, deepfakes, and insider recruitments. These defense of RAAS attacks must evolve equally as fast as RAAS is growing themselves. So what is the conclusion of these whole slides? Ransomware as a service has made cybercrime scalable, accessible, and profitable. It poses a major risk to organizations and society. You should always keep in mind that with a few couple hundred thousands of bucks, people can get their hands on services as long as they find someone that is willing to provide and partner up with them. Um, a few things that companies must invest in to keep themselves safe is cyber hygiene, making sure their systems are strong, clean, and overall just like safe. Um, Doing that overall prevents RAAS attacks. And training, that's the most important. Like I said, the human is a person, employee is the most weakest out of the company system due to or security system due to the way that they are to be easily influenced. Um, Companies should have modern detection tools to make sure that they are able to detect these threats before they go through fully or do too much damage. Companies should have clear policies and coordinated responses. And, this is a quote that I like, and it's cybersecurity is no longer optional, and it's a business necessity for today due to the growing technology and how much tech we have in the world today. But yep, that's the end of my slide. Thanks for watching.